Okay, we're in Math 121, Project D, and this has to do with Sage. All right, it's Sage project. Years ago, I gave a problem to my students. This is the problem I gave. It's not an easy question, but I'm not saying it is. And then I asked them to do it. All right. Now, again, I'm not saying it's an easy problem. I get confused sometimes when I'm looking at these things. It takes me time and effort, yada, yada, yada. All right. But anyway, you know, I guess some of my better students were able to do it and they eventually got to an answer, and this is the answer they got to. The point of this exercise over here is I want to emphasize to you that if I'm going to do this in Sage, I really need to learn how to use Sage. All right. So I'm going to go to Sage now. And I had a session open before, but let me clear the screen. And I think you've seen me do this many times before, which is reset and then defining variables. And I'll tell you why I'm defining these variables in a second. But it looks like I'm defining variables u, t, and x. And I'm saying they're variables. Now I want to point out, normally I put them in single quotes, but what you can do if you have a long list of variables, just copy one single quote, a quote, paste another single quote, and then each one of those is variables. What are the variables? U is a variable, T is a variable, and X is a variable. All right, so that's done. Now someone says there's no more code. Well, this is where I'm going to read to you. Sage will fail. I suggest you try using this using Wolfram Alpha Online by typing the last line. No need to define the variables. It will take some time, but with a bit of luck, you may just get a surprising answer. Better still, find a way to do this in Sage and share it with me. I'll publish it here. I want to point out this is the Sage code over here, though. I'm going to copy. I am going to paste. And I hit the return button. And you notice that Sage had trouble, trouble, trouble. Now, by the way, I'm going to say part of my trouble is, you know what? I just don't really feel like reading through all the error to figure out what the problem is. Because I'll be honest with you, it's almost like you have a tool chest. You pull a tool out, like your screwdriver, it's not working. What do? You grab for another tool. You grab for another tool. So what I want to do is I want to grab for another tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Wolfram Alpha. And let me open that up for you. Wolfram Alpha. And you know what? I don't know, but I guess I could type in differentiate x with respect to x. It's something easy first, right? Hit return. Gee, it understood me. This is good news. Let me see if it understands this, though. I'm just doing a copy paste. You see that? Look at the blinky lights. Looks like it's working on something, right? Maybe it doesn't understand a thing I've put in there. You know what? It wasn't able to do it. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to figure out a way to do it. And I'm going to just do one step at a time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at the original problem. And I'm going to do, I think it's square root 1 plus u to the fourth power. Oh, you know what I noticed over there? I got a problem over there. Part of it's code problem. That's u to the fourth, isn't it? I got to correct my notes, by the way. U1. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to Sage because I noticed I made an error in my code, by the way. That was u to the fourth power, right? Yeah, still got an error. Okay, let me go back over here, though. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to type in the whole code again. And I'm going to change that to a 4. We're kind of waiting, right? Hoping and waiting and hoping and waiting, hoping and waiting. No, still can't do it. Let's go back over here. I'm going to just get rid of this thing over here. And again, I'll go back to my work later. I'm seeing another problem. I said u to the fourth. Sorry about that. No, it's having a tremendous problem with it, isn't it? Tremendous problem. Yeah, tremendous problem. So I want to, I got to correct my notes, by the way. But anyway, I think for the most part, I think you realize that sometimes software is a little bit more frustrating than it's worth. So my claim about this over here, if you have some knowledge, paper and pencil knowledge of calculus, that this really wasn't a bad problem to do. It really wasn't a bad problem to do. And someone says, what do you mean by that? If you understand the fundamental theorem of algebra, how it relates to integration and differentiation, this is not a bad problem to do. It's really not a bad problem to do. But resorting to software as sort of like, I don't know what to do, is probably not a good place to start. I would always start with paper and pencil, see if you could figure out paper and pencil. I'm not saying not go to a computer, but if you're bypassing the thinking part and going to a computer, you're going to be horribly confused most of the time. Anyway, thanks for paying attention.